All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to attempt something different today. I have no idea how this might or might not turn out. Let's just give it a go and see what happens. I'm going to talk about Decentraland Economics. And I think it's a very difficult and a very abstract topic. And I think a lot of people in Decentraland don't necessarily understand it. And frankly speaking, I don't blame them. It's extremely complicated. And I'm going to try at least to talk about a few core elements that I think are particularly interesting. I've started some of these topics in the past on Twitter, and they seem to touch a lot of people emotionally, and certain people are, are intellectually very much interested in these topics. So I think there is quite some potential to discover this topic. And I also noticed that Decentraland employees also mention the in-game economics as one of the key areas of complexity and work. So it is a relevant topic. Now, where do you get started? I think one core component of the economics that ties everything together in some sense is the actual currency mana, right? Let's quickly talk about that. So I think I would almost suspect that there might be a little bit of a problem with mana because it wears a lot of different hats, if you will. On one hand is mana a token, and a token very often represents a share in a business, a share in a project, a share in a company of sorts, right? So on one hand, this mana token, it feels like if you buy mana, you become a shareholder of the Decentraland project. Now, yes, in some sense that feels true, but in reality, at least in the way I understand it, it's okay. Let's leave it. Let's put that aside for a second and say, okay, mana is somehow a share of the project. At the same time, mana is also the currency of Decentraland. And now, a share and a currency, these are very different concepts, right? Let's say Microsoft or any other company they have shares listed on the stock exchange. If you buy a share, you're eligible to receive dividends from certain companies, or at least you become a shareholder of the business, and you benefit from the profits from the business. So this is not necessarily true for Decentraland. Like, there is no actual revenue that you can benefit from by holding the so-called quote-unquote share. So I wouldn't qualify it as a share. So it's first and foremost a currency to transact inside Decentraland, right? Now, if it's a currency, that means if you want to interact inside Decentraland, you should be able to spend that currency, and you need that currency to be active. Now today, where can you spend mana? And I'm not talking about edge cases like donating in somebody's building. Like where are the main areas where you can actually spend mana? So it's the wearables market, or it's for land purchases, right? So it's pretty much the marketplace. It's limited to the marketplace where you can actually spend mana. I'm not going to talk about the DAO and how you can lock funds there, right? That's not really part of the economics. Well, it is in a way, but it's not, at least for now, it's not a major part in the economics. Maybe it kind of ties up the supply of mana and stuff like that, but it's not the point here. The point here is that you cannot actually spend mana in Decentraland unless you're buying something from the marketplace. So there is no real demand for mana in terms of its main purpose, let's say. So we have mana that we cannot spend, and where we don't own anything of a business, so it's not really a share. And it represents both of those things. So it makes things very complicated, because if we look at the wearables market or even more so on the land market, we can see that everything has become a lot more expensive in real terms. And by in real terms, I mean, if you are a fiat currency holder and if you want to buy anything from that project, most of the things have become 3 to 4 times more expensive, even if the price has stayed the same, just because the exchange rate has moved against us, where you have to pay 3 to 4 times more to get the same amount of mana. Everything has become more expensive. So this is pretty crazy, because if you compare Decentraland to a country, which I think is a very straightforward comparison, we are all tourists inside that country, if you will. Like, why are we tourists? Because we don't make any money inside the country. We don't live inside Decentraland. We don't make any money. We don't have any revenue in mana, and we don't spend anything really. And we make our income outside of Decentraland. That means abroad, if you will, quote unquote. And all our basic needs are covered in non-mana terms. So we have to spend fiat to eat. We live outside of Decentraland, so we are foreigners. And when we come to Decentraland, we are tourists of sorts who have to buy currency to interact in that country for a specific amount of time before we travel outside of Decentraland. So I think this is quite a good comparison to fully understand how this whole system works. So until the day that we have to spend money to use Decentraland, until the day where we can make money inside Decentraland in mana, we are considered to be tourists who come with foreign currency and have to buy local currency for the time we spend in Decentraland, to the degree we can actually spend money in there. Now, so these are the fundamentals. So in one of my Twitter posts, I said, it does not make sense to hodl mana. And some people agreed, some people argued against that. And I think you can probably argue any way. You can always refer to a distant future and the potential of the project where anything potentially could be possible. But realistically speaking, if you hodl mana, you pretty much hope that it will appreciate in value, which would mean that all of the things in the marketplace become exponentially more expensive over time. That means that nobody is willing to buy any of those goods, because in real terms, in fiat terms, they become crazy expensive. So in order for people to sell their items, they would have to sell things for a lot cheaper, meaning that a lot of people will lose a lot of money in mana terms, or they will have to hold on to their assets forever and never sell those. So it creates a negative spiral where the whole economy starts to collapse over time if mana is too expensive over a long period of time. So if you hodl mana and you are a Decentraland member, that pretty much means that you're hoping for a development that is going to be negative for Decentraland. I can see some people might argue that, yeah, we might attract new players by having a outperforming token in the marketplaces and this and that, but I think that's not an argument. Like the people who are speculating with our currency, with mana, a lot of those people don't actually understand Decentraland, and they probably do not even have an account. They just speculate on the idea. That means they have no interest in the future of the project. So these are like, if we go back to the example of the country and us being tourists, these are like foreign investors that are speculating on our currency and breaking our economy for a profit. So these are bad actors, and normal countries have central banks that try to mitigate and use monetary policy to cancel out some of these speculators. And in the real world, a currency move of 20% in normal countries, in let's say stable countries, would be a major economic event. And in Decentraland, we just had a 200, 300, 400% move, where a pair of pants used to cost $30 and now they cost $120 and things like that. So long story short, I think there is a problem with the fact that our currency is being traded on a lot of different exchanges, and we allow and kind of encourage foreign aggressive investors who do not care about the project to speculate on our currency, while treating it as if it was a share in the business that doesn't generate any revenue. It's a really strange composition, and it's a really strange economic model, and we need to find a solution there, I believe. And I would be really curious to see what other people think, what a solution could be, right? And there have been a couple of ideas on Twitter already, and I might cover some of those. I'll have to reflect on some of those. They're very often really abstract but interesting. So I think this is a great first start into the economics discussion. I think we can go deeper into wearables economics. I think this is quite a hot topic, but also into land prices and so forth. And hopefully there is an interest in this topic, and hopefully this could be maybe even a place where we could come up with, DAO initiatives. Maybe this could be a contribution to the community of a different type. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope this was useful. I would be excited to get any comments or responses, reshares, subscriptions, likes, whatever you can offer me, I take it. All right, have a nice rest of the day, and thank you. Peace.